Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Wayforth Voyager reference V1.01. This watch is available from wayforthwatches.com for €366. Wayforth are a well-established micro-brand. They were founded in 2017 and they're based in Canada. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a travel pouch which is housed inside this cardboard box. Inside the lid we have a statement from Wayforth Watches detailing their policy of using recyclable materials for their packaging. So, the travel pouch and the watch inside come very well wrapped with this mesh paper. This is the first time I've seen a microbrand use mesh paper, which of course is recyclable and therefore environmentally friendly. Usually microbrands protect their products in shipping using bubble wrap or alternatively foam, but this mesh paper does actually work very well, and they deserve credit for being conscientious and using recyclable materials as a microbrand. So, this is the travel pouch. It's made from vinyl or PU leather and also velour fabric. So there's a strap which secures the flap, as you can see, and it's embossed with Wayforth's text logo to a good standard. Good quality stitching, nice matte finish to it. It's black grain finish as per vinyl or PU leather, and the flap is well secured by the strap. The interior is fully upholstered with black velour fabric, so this does a good job of protecting the watch from any scuffs and scratches in shipping, and the strap is well proportioned because it secures the flap of it very well. So it is practical and useful to have a travel pouch. It's good presentation, very aesthetically pleasing. Now with regards to the items, you simply get this card, and on the reverse it's the warranty card because there's space to fill in the date of purchase, reference number and order number for the piece. The watch is covered by a 12-month international warranty, which is very good. We've also got two website addresses, one for the warranty, one for the owner's instructions. So wayforthwatches.com/warranty will give you the information for the 12-month warranty. Wayforthwatches.com/instructions will give you the information of the owner's instructions, including the operation of the movement use, which is the Seiko VK64 Mecha Quartz. So, with regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 41mm case diameter. We have a lug-to-lug measurement of 48mm, a thickness of 13.2mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The genuine leather strap has a rally profile to it. It's fully perforated and it's tanned with vegetable oil. So this is made from Italian leather, and the Italian leather is then made into straps in Germany. So it's got a taper from the twisted lyre lugs, 20mm at the lyre lugs, down to the buckle and tang. Solid 316L grade stainless steel buckle and tang, engraved with high definition engraving of the Wayforth logo. Nice heavy gauge to the 316L grade stainless steel, brushed satin finish to the top side, underside and flanks, no sharp edges, no burrs, so the finishing is very good and it's correctly proportioned. We have a double dome sapphire crystal with clear AR coating on the underside, and the clear anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the silver mirror polished applied indices and silver mirror polished pencil handset. The minute hand, which is pencil style, is the correct length. It extends all the way to the minute ticks on the white chapter ring, and also the hour hand nearly extends to the applied indices, so the correct proportion is used on both the hour and minute hands. Also like that they're faceted, they're not just flat, and they're correctly proportioned. Contrasting orange chronograph hand is very aesthetically pleasing but also clearly legible. It does a good job of registering on the chapter ring and also the tachymeter scale on the aluminium bezel insert. And I also like the aesthetic of it because the orange subdial hands match the orange chronograph hand, and it does look like a chronograph piece from the 1960s and 1970s. It has that vintage aesthetic. The blue dial has a lovely blue tone to it, and it's not glossy enamel finish, nor is it matte, and it's not sunburst finished either, but it does have a slight metallic sheen to it, which is very aesthetically pleasing, and that complements the blue sheen of the 3D effect to the inner rotating bezel. So at the 10 o'clock position we've got a crown which is sterile and knurled finish, and this has a mirror polished domed cap. It's very well finished, nice chamfer to the tips of the knurled teeth, so it doesn't feel sharp but it does feel correctly proportioned and grippy and tactile. This 10 o'clock crown operates the inner rotating bezel, so we have a bi-directional 12-hour bezel, so you can use this to register a second time zone rather like a GMT piece. and it feels smooth. It doesn't click, it's not ratcheting, it feels smooth both clockwise and anti-clockwise, but it does have a firm resistance to it. Medium firm resistance, it's not too light, and it doesn't feel too tight or heavy either. The benefit of it having a firm resistance, bearing in mind it's friction based rather than ratcheting, it doesn't click, is if you rub against the crown accidentally, it's not going to knock the inner rotating bezel out of position. You've really got to get a good grip of it with your index finger and thumb and then turn it with good force. You have to give it lots of torsion in order to rotate the inner rotating bezel. So there is enough friction to hold it in position, and it feels nice and smooth. I like the medium firm resistance to it. So I'm just going to rotate it all the way to the 60 on the tachymeter and also the 60 or 12 o'clock index on the dial. Perfect. So the triangle is orange and the legibility is good, but also the orange triangle matches, it complements the orange chronograph hand and the orange subdial hands, as well as the Voyager text on the dial. With regards to the printing on the dial, it's nice and crisp and high definition. It's not too thick and too blurry. I like that the dial is clean and minimalist. It's not over branded with unnecessary text and specification. Often mid-tier brands have a tendency to print too much information, too much specification on the dial, such as the water resistance rating, which for a chronograph is irrelevant information. We just have Wayforth's text logo at 12 o'clock, which is clearly legible, and at the 6 o'clock position, Voyager in contrasting orange text, and then chronograph, just the right amount of information. For example, it doesn't state 100 meters, which is negligible information for a chronograph. Legibility of the minute ticks on the white chaptering are clearly legible. The printing of the Arabic numerals on the bicompact subdials are also nice and crisp and high definition. The white Arabic numerals contrast very well on the inner rotating bezel for the 12 hours, so the legibility is good, the font used is good. With regards to the crown, it's knurled finish, nice mirror polished chamfer to it, so no sharp tips to the knurling, and also it's signed with an W for Wayforth, and also the proportion is good. You can get good purchase with your index finger and thumb in order to set the time. So pulling it out to the first click position is the quick set date complication. So if you look at the date window at 6, you can see the quick set complication works very well. Nice positive clicks, each day of the month clicks over with a good solid click. In terms of the feeling of the indexing, it feels lighter than a Seiko NH35A, which you will all be familiar with. That's a characteristic of the VK64. The indexing is solid and robust, it feels reliable, but lighter than an NH35A. The singles and the double Arabic numerals are correctly aligned. They're not too far to the left or the right, or too high or too low in the framed date window, which is good. The font is nice and fine, it's sharp and high definition, it's not too thick and blurry. Legibility is good because the date window is correctly proportioned. It doesn't have a deep shadow around it, and that's good. The dial is nice and thin, and therefore the date wheel sits very close to the date window, so we don't get that shadow, which is often the case with thick textured dials or 3D dials. So legibility is good, proportions are good, both the singles and doubles are easy to read, so I like it. So pulling it out to the second click position hacks the movement. The VK64 Mecha Quartz does hack, so it's possible to set the time precisely to the second. Feels nice and smooth, light resistance to the gearing because it has 0 joules, it's a low friction caliber. Feels smooth, clockwise and anti-clockwise. There is some very slight backplay which one has to become accustomed to, and that's a characteristic of the VK64 Mecha Quartz. When you rotate the crown, the minute hand doesn't immediately respond. You have to take up some slight slack, both clockwise and anti-clockwise. There's a little bit of slack in the gearing, but once you become accustomed to it, it's okay. You do get used to taking up the slack when setting the time. Feels nice and smooth, does feel good to set the time. Pressing it back in, it's got a nice positive click. So this is a push-pull crown rather than a screw-down crown, which is appropriate for a chronograph. And the benefit is you can just pull it out to the first click to set the date. Second click is for setting the time. It does hack, but one doesn't need a screw-down crown with a chronograph. This is not a dive piece. 100 meters is strong enough specification. They could have made it 50 meters, for example. With regards to the pushers, they're both sterile, nice large collars. They're push-down pushers, they don't have screw collars, but 100 meters of hermetic seal is strong specification for a pusher without a screw-down collar, as per Rolex Daytona, for example. Let's test the chronograph complication. Nice firm click to the top pusher, which stops and starts the chronograph. I like the solid, heavy, spring-loaded feeling of it. It feels very robust and reliable, so I would have no reservations whatsoever about the long-term durability and reliable. It's a characteristic of the VK64. It does have a nice, heavy, spring-loaded pusher action. So I'm going to let the orange contrasting chronograph hands sweep around to 30 seconds and then stop it and reset it to make sure it flies back and resets bang on 12 o'clock or 60 on the tachymeter scale. So pressing the lower pusher will make the chronograph hand fly back to 60 on the tachymeter or the 12 o'clock index. Nice firm resistance. You can hear the loud audible click, and you've really got to push in the pusher hard, but you can feel the click and also hear it. It feels very satisfying, very robust. So I'm now going to check it 2 more times. The alignment was bang on, 60 on the tachymeter, 60 seconds on the chapter ring, and also the 12 o'clock index. Not too far to the left or right. Perfect alignment. So quality control is there. So I'll just stop it at 15 seconds and now reset it again. Nice firm click, bang on 60, bang on 12 o'clock. I'll check it one more time and allow it to go back to 30. I'll just check it finally. I like to check a chronograph 3 out of 3 times for consistency, just to check the alignment resets bang on 60 every single time, both at 15 seconds and 30. So we're just going to let it run round. It's got a nice smooth sweep to it. It doesn't tick every second like a second hand. It does have a stutter or judder, which is a characteristic of the VK64, but it does look aesthetically pleasing with a contrasting orange chronograph hand. Legibility is good. So finally we'll check the alignment the third time. Bang on 60 on the tachymeter, bang on the 12 o'clock index, and the 60 second on the minute ticks on the chapter ring. So perfect alignment. Wayforth deserve credit for excellent quality control here. So let's test the Lume. We'll do a Lume test. So this is lumed with BGW9 Super Lume Nova. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to its absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, it has not disappointed. We're clearly looking at 5 to 6 layers. I'm pleased to see that they haven't used the cost-cutting measure of 3 to 4 layers. Often low-tier micro brands use the cost-cutting measure of 3 to 4 layers of Super Lume Nova in order to cut production costs and therefore maximise profit margin per piece. But they haven't done that. This is 5 to 6 layers, and I think they deserve full credit for this. The pencil hands are loomed with a nice large area, nice large plot. Now bear in mind, they're not as large as Mercedes hands or snowflake hands, for example, used on a dive piece. They don't allow for as much area, as much plot. They're rather like baton hands. The pencil hands aren't as wide, but you are clearly looking at 5 to 6 layers. Now one can clearly differentiate between the longer pencil minute hand and the shorter hour hand. Proportions are good. Legibility is good. I like the symmetry of the bicompact style. Now, of course, we've got absence indices at the 9 o'clock and the 3 o'clock position because we have the subdials, which is acceptable. Also, there's an absent index at 6 o'clock because we've got the date complication, but that's acceptable. Symmetry of the dial is good. Legibility of the applied indices is good. The colour tone match in daylight is perfect white between the indices and the pencil hands, and the colour tone match in the dark that you're looking at is the perfect blue tone. So this indicates there's the same application, the same number of layers on both the indices and the hands. We're not looking at 3 to 4 layers on the indices versus 5 to 6 on the hands, for example. 5 to 6 on the dial, 5 to 6 on the hands, which is optimum. It is the industry standard for good reason. So the exciter is glowing very brightly, and it will continue to glow without fading as per 5 to 6. BGW9 is the correct choice. Very aesthetically pleasing. Performance of the exciter is very good, and I like it. So I think the legibility is good. Right, so I'll show you the case back. Solid 316L grade stainless steel case back, 100 metres is strong specification. For example, they could have made the case back 50 metres. This is a chronograph, not a dive piece. Matte bead blasted effect to the centre section, and it's embossed with Wayforth Voyager limited edition. Around the circumference, it's concentric CNC lathe tool machined. Engraving is high definition with a specification, and we've also got milled slots which are deburred and chamfered to a good standard, and the circumference is mirror polished. No sharp edges to it whatsoever. The engraving and embossing is very smooth. It's been polished very well, so it doesn't feel rough or scratchy against the wrist. The benefit of this being VK64 Mecha Quartz powered is the case back can be made very flat rather than a bubble back case back, and this piece is only 13.2mm as a result, even though it uses a double dome sapphire crystal, which does add significant thickness. So it's a very flat and low profile case back, nice and smooth, sits very close to the wrist, so this gives the head of the piece a nice snug fit, and it feels very comfortable. Finishing is very good, very aesthetically pleasing, and I like that it's low profile rather than a bubble back case back. The underside to the head of the piece is finished to a flawless standard. The mirror polishing is exceptional. They deserve credit because the mirror polishing is very good. No sharp edges to the undercuts to the flanks, and the 4 tips of the lugs have been deburred and chamfered very well, so it doesn't have sharp corners or sharp edges to the tips of the lugs or the flanks of the case. Now, with regards to the Italian leather strap, which is made in Germany, I'm pleased to see quick release stainless steel spring bars rather than standard spring bars used, because with thick leather straps like this, it can be difficult to depress the edge of the strap using a spring bar tool inside the polished lugs without scuffing and scratching the lugs, and I think they deserve credit. It's the correct choice. Had they used standard spring bars, it would be difficult to get a spring bar tool in between the edge of the lugs and also the strap to exchange it. And the finishing to the strap is very good. So this is Italian leather, and then it's tanned with vegetable oil to this black finish, which has a matte finish to it rather than being glossy as per dress piece. The benefit of it being fully perforated as per a rally strap is it allows for ventilation. It allows for air circulation and sweat and perspiration to wick away from the wrist. So the strap will dry out if it gets wet, and it feels very comfortable to wear in warmer weather when the wrist sweats, for example. So it's good quality, nice and soft and supple. It feels like shell cordovan Horween leather. That's how soft and supple it is. So although it is a thick strap, it's not going to require any breaking in. It really does feel like shell cordovan Horween leather, top grade. So very nice, aesthetically pleasing grain finish, and I like that it's matte finish rather than glossy as per dress piece. So I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, this strap is made for the majority of collectors with a 6 to 7 inch wrist, but on a positive note, I can just engage the end of the strap in the 2 keepers, as you can see, but it does feel slightly tight. So 8 inches is the absolute maximum this will fit, but really it's made to fit a 6 to 7.5 inch wrist, because as you can see, there's not enough holes in the strap to fit a 6 to 7.5, but I can actually just engage the end of it in the 2 keepers. The first keeper is fixed, the second keeper slides as one would expect. So, wrist presence is good at 41mm, but it is clearly intended for collectors with a 7 to 8 inch wrist. If you have a smaller wrist of 6 to 7 inches, you may find 41 has too much wrist presence and it dominates the wrist too much. But on a positive note, it has the perfect lug to lug measurement of 48mm. You'll know from my previous reviews that I consider 48 to be the sweet spot. That is the perfect lug to lug, regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist or a 7 to 8 inch wrist, respectively. Nice minimal gap beneath the tips of the lyre twisted lugs and the undercut to the case, so it curves around the wrist with a nice snug fit due to the flat case back rather than a bubble back case back, and it is only 13.3 even though it has a double dome sapphire crystal. So sweet spot is 13mm to easily slip underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. So at 13.2 it's just a fraction above the perfect sweet spot of 13. This will still easily slip underneath a shirt cuff. I like this slight distortion and magnification effect when you tilt the piece at an oblique angle, but the double dome sapphire crystal does have excellent legibility. When you look at it straight on, the AR coating works well, so the legibility is good. The subdials are easy to read, the mirror polishing to the pencil hands are very easy to read, and the contrasting chronograph hand is aesthetically pleasing, but the legibility is also good. Date complication is good. Doesn't have a shadow as per pieces that have a very thick textured dial or a 3D dial, which creates a shadow around the date window. So it's good. The legibility of the inner rotating bezel is also good. The white Arabic numerals contrast very well and has a nice 3D effect to it. So I like the subdials, which have concentric circles in the white subdials, and they have a slight sheen to them, rather like silver. Legibility is good. 3D effect to the applied indices is also good. Feel good factor is good. Now the thing to note is the lack of heft. This is only 82 grams on the leather strap. I would expect this to be over 90 grams. So at 82, it's very lightweight for 41mm. So it's deceptive. It does give wrist presence. You would expect this to feel like a top heavy piece because it's 41mm by 48, but it is only 13.2, so it doesn't feel top heavy. Nice curved profile. It doesn't sit on top of the wrist like a slab of 316L grade stainless steel. The lyre twisted lugs, which are like an Amiga Speedmaster, have a nice taper to them, and I like the way they curve around the wrist, so it really does wrap around the wrist with a minimal gap beneath it. Does feel very well balanced, and they've used the correct taper. 20mm on the strap is the correct lug size and lug width for a 41 head of the piece. Feel good factor is good, legibility is good, comfort level is good, and I like that it's not too thick and top heavy. 13.2 is good, so 48 is perfect lug to lug. The only thing is it's large at 41, so if you have a 7 to 8 inch wrist you will enjoy the wrist presence, but if you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist, I think a 39 would fit you better. At 41 it really is the top limit for a 6 to 7 inch wrist, best suited for a 7 to 8 inch wrist. So let's discuss the movement used. You will all be familiar with the Seiko VK64 Mecha Quartz, which is made in Japan. It's a reliable, well-proven workhorse Mecha Quartz movement and the correct movement for this piece. It has 0 joules and it has hacking, which I've demonstrated works well. Also has a quick set date complication, which works well. 3-year battery life is very impressive. Often Mecha Quartz movements only have a 1 or 2 year battery life. 3 years is very good. The stated accuracy is plus or minus 20 seconds per month, which is outstanding. Just think about that for a moment. That's not plus or minus 20 seconds per day or per week. Plus or minus 20 seconds per month is better than plus or minus 1 second per day accuracy. So it's reliable, it's well proven. The build's quality, quality control, materials, everything about it works well. No reliability issues whatsoever. 3-year battery life, plus or minus 20 seconds. Accurate, reliable, robust, everything about it is good. The quick set works well, the hacking works well, feels good to set the time, and the chronograph resets bang on 60 on the tachymeter and bang on the 12 o'clock index and the 60 seconds on the chapter ring. So 3 out of 3 times the alignment was correct. Quality control is good. So last I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch meets 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So low tier piece, the price point is €366. I'm going to declare it excellent quality, but I'm going to declare the value as okay. I'm not going to say the value is good or excellent because Wayforth face some stiff competition from low-tier Chinese brands and also a plethora of micro-brands in the low tier at the €366 price point. In order for this to be good value or excellent value, they need to reduce the price to below €300. At €366, it is expensive for a low-tier piece powered by the VK64. Below 300 would make it good or excellent. But the quality is good. Sorry, the quality is excellent because the quality control, the build's quality, the finishing are all excellent. The inner rotating bezel works correctly. The alignment of the VK64 on the chronograph complication resets bang on 60. That is correct. Quality of the finishing to the head of the piece, the bezel, the case back and the buckle and tang are all good. And this Italian leather rally strap is also finished very well. It's high quality leather. So it's a good piece, but I just think the price needs to be lowered in order to improve the value proposition of it. I'm going to recommend it to you for consideration. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Wayforth Voyager, reference V1.01. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.